My husband Bill had a brain disease called Lewy body dementia. When I met him, he was a vocational agriculture instructor and FFA advisor. He instilled in his students a respect for self, others, school, and country. He farmed with his dad and could run and repair any piece of machinery on the farm. He always had a plan. Bill was a leader in the church. He was the first president of the Idaho Walk to Emmaus. He became a lay minister. Bill was an active member of Lions Clubs for 37 years. He was daddy to our 5 daughters. Bill became symptomatic in 2003. He was walking like an old man. His gait was slow, shuffling, and stiff. He was not thinking right. Speech was difficult. He was no longer able to use his tools. He could not compute math. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Bill seemed to be getting worse with increasing hallucinations. We were surrounded by the enemy, or he would ask where his brother Don was sleeping. He would surround himself with children. I would tell him, Bill, I think your mind is playing tricks on you. Or I would tell him Don is at home in Idaho. One day he fixed a meal for us and filled 4 plates. I asked who the other 2 were for. He said, oh, those are for the boys. They were standing right there while I was cooking. One day after I had gone to work, Bill went for a walk and did not know how to get home. I decided it was time to settle down. I loaded our motorhome with 2 daughters, 8 grandchildren, Bill and me. We drove through Canada to Alaska. We had a great adventure. I started working at a small hospital in Alaska. I took Bill to a neurologist in Anchorage who diagnosed him with probable Parkinson's disease with Lewy bodies. I had never heard of Lewy bodies. One night I woke at midnight and Bill was not in bed with me. I started getting up and there was a policeman with his head in my door. He asked, do you know a Bill Hutchinson? Bill was out on the highway waiting for the team to pick him up. He had a bag with some jackets and shoes. That was his basketball uniform. Bill continued to wander when I was at work. He would be waiting at the school bus stop at 3 a.m. for the bus to take him to the FFA convention. The doctor and hospital administration talked about putting him into long-term care. It was an agonizing decision. After Bill was in long-term care, he continued to have hallucinations. He barricaded the door to his room. He turned the water on and plugged the sink so that the water ran all over the floor. One of the nurses peeked in and he closed the door on her head. I was called in at 3 a.m. because of Bill's behavior. Bill let me in without a problem and asked if that girl was okay. I was told that it would take a month for Bill to adjust to long-term care. It took 4 months for Bill to adjust and get his medication controlled. Hallucinations were continuous. There were thugs out there, and he was the sheriff. I had been kidnapped, and he was the CIA. He would throw things and tear up in the long-term care. Or he would have his clipboard and be organizing his trap team. He would try to figure out how to get the $1 million from under the chair of another resident. Once he was organizing his farm crew. Bill never had a violent hallucination when I was with him. We would sit together on his bed to watch TV or take a walk down the hall. I would take him out for a ride or we would go to church. I think I cried almost every day that Bill was in long-term care. I resigned from the hospital and took Bill out of long-term care. And God said, now you are free. You can tell the world about Lewy body dementia. I drove the motorhome across America to increase awareness of Lewy body dementia. Bill came along for the ride. Lewy bodies are protein inclusions inside the cells of the brain that cause the brain to malfunction. Lewy body dementia has 3 major symptoms. 1. Parkinson's symptoms. 2. Fluctuations in cognition. And 3. Hallucinations. Other symptoms may include REM sleep disorder, restless leg syndrome, sensitivity to neuroleptics, frequent falls, syncope, and autonomic dysfunction. Most systems of the body can be affected by LBD. There is no cure for Lewy body dementia. Let's put our brains together and support brain research. This movie was filmed while we lived the last year of Bill's life as I drove the motorhome across the United States. Bill was able to go in a motorhome because it was less confusing. Wherever we were, we went home at night. It was familiar. Bill was unable to help with the driving or hookups. I talked to Lions Clubs, Rotary, churches, and senior centers in 19 states along the way. Bill enjoyed going to the meetings with me. It gave him a sense of purpose in his devastating world. We met with 15 other caregivers and some of their LBD spouses along the way. We were the first persons they met that understood the trials they were experiencing with Lewy body dementia. We had the adventure of a lifetime. We visited all of the friends and family we could along the way. We went to a family reunion in Cascade, Idaho. Bill knew all the family he had known as a child. He could understand what was said and laugh at the jokes. We found something to laugh about every day. I discovered that I had a deeper love for Bill. It was a new dimension of love, an amazing love of peace. We saw some of the most beautiful country in the world, the Columbia River Gorge, the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, and the seashore at Tybee Island. We swam in the hot springs at Glenwood Springs. We rode the tram to the top of the mountain. We went to a horse-drawn parade in Sun Valley, Idaho, the Watermelon Festival in Green River, Utah, and a circus in Denver. Bill would say, "Thank you for taking me." Our Lewy body dementia drive across America took us from Anchorage, Alaska to Fort Myers, Florida over a year. Bill died August 29, 2007, 4 months after we arrived at our daughter's home in Florida. The last time Bill spoke to me, a few days before he died, he opened his eyes, looked at me, and said, "You sure are pretty."